Survivor's ready.
If anybody has a hidden immunity idol and you want to play it, now would be the time to do so.
The queen stays queen.
You said rustle feathers.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to glamor you. We have great bananas all the time.
Dude, my prize isn't even $1 million. My prize was that I fell in love in this game. Love at first sight. Her name is Candace.
You officially go down as the dumbest survivor ever.
Welcome to Not Game, All Personal. Hey, we are a Survivor podcast here to talk about all things Survivor, more specifically the events of this past week. I'm Nathan. This is Tony. Tony, how does it feel to be officially merged?
Nathan, are we officially merged? I feel like we have to bring up that question again because they split into two tribes. Is that merged?
According to Jeff, it is, and we're not doing this again because this is what I said last week. You're not baiting me to go on this rant. We are merged. We are merged,
What?
which means we split up, okay? That's what the merge means.
I went home this last weekend and my nephew, I was talking to him and he was like, man, Nathan's so dramatic about the merge thing. I was like, yes, he is. He needs to cool it. He's like, it's not that big of a deal. I was like, I agree.
I went on a small rant last night to the group that we watch with, and same thing. Someone was just like, so it's just the wording you don't like? I was like, yes. They're like, oh, okay.
It's like, well, this was a fun conversation. Let's move on.
It's like, but it has meaning. It has value. If we just
Words
change
matter.
it, yes, they do, Jeff. Okay, but yes, I'm over it. We are officially merged, which means we split up into two tribes, and it was eventful.
Was it?
There were moves that were made. How about that?
Were there?
Okay, I have a feeling we're gonna be on different sides of this fence, and I'm excited.
So I left
have
this episode.
I have a
Nathan.
strong feeling that we're gonna disagree, and as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, me and Tony are gonna be disagreeing about this. I can't wait.
It's always a bummer to me when they split into two tribes and both tribes do the easy thing. And not to say that the easy thing is necessarily the wrong thing, but boy did I want them to go to Rocks in the second tribal. Boy did I want to see that fight happen. That would have been so much fun. And yeah, it was disappointing. It was disappointing. I want to see fireworks and we didn't get fireworks, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I can get behind that. I think honestly, I really do think that when you split off this early on, and one of them said it, but they haven't had a chance to vote all together with everyone on the table yet. You know, it is kind of bizarre that this format now waits that long, because I think when you do split up and you have nowhere to hide, you don't really want to make a huge move right here, especially because for example, spoilers again. I don't know why I had to say that, but the Kelly and Bruce situation where she's like, it's not time yet. I think part of that could be that there's other people on this other tribe that she maybe wants to include them in that. You know what I mean? It doesn't really make a lot of sense to make a huge move without informing your allies who aren't on the same tribe with you right now. So I get that. The safe move kind of makes sense. But I do think that format kind of forces them to do that.
Yeah, this season, I feel like more so than even the past few seasons where it's done this merge and then split into tribes type thing. They wait so long. They put off them making a vote and solidifying alliances so long that it gets so fluid. They've been with so many other groups, especially this season where we've done a swap. Two tribes never went to tribal before that swap. So so many of these people have not shown their loyalty through a vote. I think there is some pretty firm alliances, at least on Reba. But when it comes to Bello, it's just so fluid, and you don't know where everyone's going to fall because they all want to work together, except for a couple don't want to work with that person. And so I do think it's very interesting in that way. But like I said, this episode felt like the easy vote for both sides.
Yeah. I am grateful, though, that this is where a 90-minute episode really helps, because I think previously I've been more frustrated with an episode like this because it's so just rushed, and it's I don't know what's happening. I feel like we got a lot of time with everyone where I had a good understanding of where everyone's head was at going into each tribal. So I do appreciate that part. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting a vote with everyone involved. That's going to be really exciting when it finally happens next week.
Yeah, and how things are gonna fall, if sparks are gonna fly or what? Because now Reba's down a member, but they still have Emily, so they can pull her in, and so it's still probably even. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how
Hmm.
things shake up because then nobody wants Bruce there. It feels like, and then Bruce doesn't want Couture. Yeah, there is some interesting dynamics happening. I think the season has definitely picked up from the slow start we had.
Completely agree. I think the past 3-4 weeks have been phenomenal. I think once we got the quitters out, it's been really good stuff happening. Um, and yeah, so let's get into it. I'm trying to think if there's anything really significant pre them splitting up. I know we kind of got some post tribal talk with Caleb after he got all the votes on him, and then got a
Hmm.
shot in the dark. It's hard to even talk about that because I feel like anything that happened with him post tribal doesn't actually matter because now we know he's gone. So it's
Yeah,
not like it's not like any
I
strategy.
will
Like,
say showing like your social charm immediately after that and doing this long like super eloquent speech and just like solidifying how good you are with like the way that you talk and how like much you put people like at ease. Yeah, that's probably not the move, man. I'd be like, hey guys, it happens. Like that was awesome. Like great moment. I still want I still want to play this game. So I'm glad that I'm still here and I'm still like and call it good. You don't need to talk. You don't need to tell everybody this whole long story.
yeah, I agree with that. It feels like you almost should run and hide and play like a much quieter game, and he didn't really do that. It's not like he
Hmm.
completely messed it up, but yeah, I would almost be so much more humbled. Be like, guys, I got no one. Please, like, don't do this again. That's how I would go about it. But I don't know. I don't think that's why he went home this week either, though. So I think like that's the thing.
Mm-mm.
Is I
It
almost feel
was
like,
just because he was the easy vote,
yeah, pretty much.
ultimately.
Yeah, I do think that he got the most screwed by like this swap. I think like Sifu,
Hmm.
I don't know, he's always kind of gonna be that person that's an easy vote eventually, but like I do think if there were more people that were, I think like, obviously we saw Jake stand up for Caleb and all this, but I think like all the other people that would have, actually gone to rocks for him were on that other side. Uh,
Hmm.
and so like we definitely did see, which is what we predicted, that not everyone was like, we need Caleb out last week. It was really just a few, and then most of them had to go along with the majority, including Kelly and Emily and several others. So I don't know. I think it was just like there's not much he could have done at this point.
I thought it was kind of crazy because I thought Katura and Caleb were pretty close, and so I figured that, and I maybe it was just the fact that she didn't know about Bruce's idol until that moment, and
Hmm.
that's what really put her off to him, which I guess makes sense. But yeah, she like it feels like she's going scorched earth. I could see her joining Reba next week, honestly, or trying to start something different entirely, because she just seems so put off by that, and that's the only way that I can explain her not wanting to fight for that. I guess rocks are
I
intimidating, but
I think that was it, honestly. And that's where I think like the biggest mistake that Caleb and Jake made were telling her about the idol in this way. Because I think it's so much different. Like we saw when Caleb was with all the Bello people before the merge, and he like
mhm,
reached out to Kelly and told her some information. Before, like, they weren't in trouble, they weren't going to tribal. It was like, I'm giving you this information because I want to work with you. Like that's the ideal scenario that you want to get information. I think Katura sniffed out that, like, wait a minute, you are conveniently telling me days after only when you
mhm,
need me. So, like, I think in her perspective, like, she pointed out, like, oh, I am not only am I at the bottom of this alliance, I'm not even in this alliance. Like,
mhm.
you two don't want to work with me. You just want my vote tonight. And is that true? I don't know. Like, I don't think Caleb didn't want to work with her. I just think, how do you tell the difference? Because you have Bruce who doesn't want to work with her and keep it a secret, and then you also have Caleb keeping a secret. So I think it just kind of connects the dots on its own.
Yeah, and you can't really. I mean, you can't blame them for not telling her. I guess. I think the one thing that kind of stood out to me that seemed scummy, and I understand if she feels like put out by those guys and doesn't feel like she can work with them anymore. Not telling Jake that she was gonna vote that way wasn't in like It was lame. I texted or I messaged coworker Nick immediately, and I was like, "Dude, Katura is so lame. Like, just because she didn't go to Rocks. Like, Rocks is so cool, and I just love every opportunity." So I was like, "She's so lame." First of all, but I understand that was probably the correct choice for her game. Why would you risk it for Caleb at that point? But she didn't tell Jake, which then completely cuts off her ties from that entire alliance. I feel like the Bello people won't trust her at all, and now she's literally alone in the game. So she can go from being the bottom of one alliance to the bottom of the another alliance, which is never like a good idea. I don't know. It just felt like an interesting choice to just not. It felt similar to Sean not telling everybody what he was going to do. It's like you unnecessarily create an enemy, or nah, it's not that similar. It's just similar that a vote happened that because people were just unaware of what was going on. But do you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying, but I do disagree because I think
Tell me
Jake
about it.
is in the same position as Caleb. So it's like I don't think she wants to work with him. I think like both of them are people that kept her out of an alliance, and so why would she want to include Jake on that? I think she's much better off creating a new, relationship. Because I think like it is, you're right in the sense like she could be going the bottom of this alliance to that alliance. But again, I don't think she was the bottom of Bello. I think she wasn't in Bello. So I don't view it as like
Mm,
she was at the bottom. I think she was on the outs the whole time. And we know that, like we saw that they didn't include her in anything. And so I don't know, like for Jake to be like, "Hey, vote with us, Bellow Strong." It's like, no, that's not Bellow Strong. You lied to her for days. And I
mm-hmm.
think even viewing her working with Reba as being on the bottom, like I don't think we know that she'll be on the bottom because she's never had a chance to work with them. So it's
True.
not like I get that they've been had these relationships for days and days, but to me, I don't know, just because she's new, I think she like proved her loyalty to them. Um and so I don't know. I don't really to me it makes the most sense. I think if she would have went to Rocks and like let's assume that like Julie does go out, I think that would have been horrible for her game because now she's in the game with Caleb and Jake who don't want to work with her or didn't up until this point. They go back with Bruce leading the Bellow Strong. To me it makes sense to get one of those numbers out so you can keep playing the middle.
Yeah, I think I agree that the smart move was not to go to Rocks. I wanted him to go to Rocks because that's fun, but I
Sure,
understand
I
that
get that.
it probably wasn't the best move. The don't understand because by her not telling Jake that she was going to do that, it guarantees that he's like a direct enemy. It's like
But he
she just
already
straight up
was. I think
hung him
that's
out
my
to dry.
point.
I don't. I feel like the illusion could have been kept, and I think we obviously have the behind the scenes look where we know like Kelly wants to work with Katura. I think Kendra, like everybody else in Bello, I feel like is fine with working with her except for Bruce. And so, and obviously she doesn't realize that she thinks everybody's just against her. But from our view, I think that just completely cutting him out and hanging him out to dry was not good because it just it makes her an immediate or it makes him a direct enemy as opposed to like we're not necessarily working together as closely as you think we are kind of situation.
I guess so, but you have to blindside people, I think like if she tells him, I think your assumption is that he doesn't tell Caleb or something, So like I think you you need to keep that information to yourself unless it's like I don't see any benefit in telling Jake. I think it's just more of a risk that it gets back to Caleb.
I don't know. I don't know if getting back to Caleb is an issue. I guess, and like I don't know. I feel like blindsiding people is good, yes, but I feel like you would want to be on more secure ground than I feel like she was. But we'll agree to disagree. We won't just sit on this topic the entire time.
I knew it. I knew it. I was like, Tony's not gonna like this. I know he's not gonna like Katura after this. 100%.
Yeah, and I was never a huge fan of her. I don't
No.
think she's great at the game, but yeah, and I'm starting to like Jake, so she hurt my boy's feelings.
No, I think this is one of the bigger because I think this shifts so much. Because I think like one, everyone wrote down Caleb last week, so by getting
Hmm.
Caleb out, you're not really making any enemies here. Like even Bruce wanted Caleb out, So like
Hmm.
worst case scenario, Jake goes back to Bello being like, "Oh, Katura voted Caleb out," and they're like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "No, we didn't want that." They're like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like, I don't view this as her going against Bello. I think it goes against Jake, which I don't know. Jake is not a threat to me at all. Um, but I do think here's my bigger question, and this is something that we've talked about uh, in recent seasons as well. And I think this kind of strategy is really at play here because Jake talked about it with wanting to keep Caleb, as Caleb is like a shield, right? Like he's this big
Mhm.
target. Why would I get him out? He's protecting me because people will vote him over me. And Kelly even said the same thing about Bruce. Like
Mhm.
no one's going to take Bruce to the end. And I think we've mentioned this in recent years as far as like the strategy of like getting out those middle people so that you can have the big targets, assuring that people take you to the end and not those targets.
Mhm.
And I think a big difference is like Katura doesn't need those targets in the same way that Jake does. Like for Jake, it makes sense to want to keep Caleb, whereas like, oh, here's like a, I don't know, archetype, strong guy or something, someone who could be good at competitions or something. Like
Okay.
whatever Jake is seeing, whatever his logic is, like I don't think Katura sees that logic. I think Katura is someone who might slip to the end, so it makes more sense for her to want to keep those people that slip to the end and get rid of the big targets. So I don't know. I kind of like view it in that way too, um, because I think in recent years we've seen like the old school like goats that you'd want to keep in the game. Those are the people that almost get targeted more so this kind of era of Survivor.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought for sure. Because yeah, their games aren't equivalent. A shield for one person isn't necessarily a shield for another person. I think the part of the shield situation is it's just giving you another week of like, oh, they're probably going to go after him, but they're completely different players, so that's not necessarily the case. I guess with her, I don't know. The people in Bello that wanted to work with her were the people that wanted to also work with Caleb, I feel like. And so the people who were actually an opportunity for her to align with were the ones that she went against more than anyone. She actually did Bruce's dirty work by getting rid of Caleb. She did Reba's dirty work by getting rid of Caleb because he was going to align with the people that she ultimately really wanted to be with. I understand when you realize that you've been kept out of a secret for a couple days, like I completely understand all of that. But from our macro point of view of the game, I feel like she made adversaries out of the people who really did want to work with her in some capacity.
I guess, but you just said it yourself. Like she did Bruce's dirty work, right? She did so. Like if everyone voted for Caleb, who's going to be upset with her? Since everyone already
True.
voted for him, I think that's my point. Is
I
like
just
no, I don't think people really wanted to work with him that much. I think they viewed him as a shield, but like they're not
yeah
like
yeah
let's go
yeah.
to the end.
But yeah, I think creating whatever. We don't need to keep digging into it. I was gonna say just create it like going after somebody in Reba and creating like voting with those two, create something. Like there's some sort of a trust there. But she had already felt like that trust was broken. So she made her decision.
Did you see the preview for next week?
Vaguely. I didn't pay super close attention.
There's a very heavy hint that there's going to be a all-female alliance forming. So that
Oh
also
yeah.
might sway my
Yeah.
decision. And again, we know how those typically go.
Mm-hmm.
Not always great. So, but
Worked really well once.
I think if it does work, I mean, I don't know. I think that kind of solidifies her. Because again, I'm like, you look at the people, like Kendra, I don't think is going to be upset that Caleb's gone. Kelly, maybe a little, but Kelly's also anti-Bruce. So, like, I think when you look at the
Mm-hmm.
individual people, I think she still has a place in all that. I don't know. Like, I just don't feel. I think it'd be different. Like, if she turned on Kelly and voted Kelly out, I think then people would be like, "What the heck?" Like, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm also just really biased because
I
I
think
have her
that's where the
drafted.
not
So,
telling. That's fair. I think that's where the not telling Jake comes into effect. Because if she made this decision, sure. But if she just leaned over at Tribal and said, "I'm voting for Caleb" to Jake, like right before the vote or something, then he knows what's going to happen and he can vote according to that. And then you don't burn that bridge, which he is. Yeah,
yeah, but Jake is
he's
going to be medically
connected to all those
evacuated
people.
next week, so he's not even going to be here
True.
much
So it
longer.
won't ultimately matter with him.
Yeah,
That's
like
true.
I think you have to view him as a liability. Do you want someone in your alliance that's just going to pass out all the time? No. The
No,
answer is no.
but it's only twice. All the time isn't twice.
It's only twice.
I feel like that tribe was significantly more interesting than the other one, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you
What
want
was
to
it?
talk about the other three that are at play here within that tribe? Because we got D, who wins
Oh,
immunity,
sure.
Julie, who is potentially the target, and then Austin, who they're all convinced is just weak under pressure, which I kind of love that they're all like that was the conclusion. Like, oh, if we go to if we revote, Austin will fold. There's no way he has it in him. I think I wanted them to test that more than anything, just to see if that was true. That's what I
Yeah.
wanted.
If he folded, awesome. If they went to rocks, awesome. Like I just wanted to see. I love when people are put under pressure like that, where it's like you have to make this decision now. How loyal are you? Are you willing to risk it for your team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did find it very interesting that D is sort of this identified threat now. I think a
Mm-hmm.
combination of her winning immunity, and then also Caleb calling her out last week, which apparently did have some um, ramifications, and so now her threat level is seemingly higher. And so it was fascinating that like Julie was the target for that reason, to like weaken D. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like it went 0 to 100 real fast because like I think we both are fans of D's game. Like she's doing a
Mm-hmm.
good job, but it was like oh wow, people are like onto her, which is kind of crazy.
I wonder how much of that was the pre-challenge, because Kelly was mentioned as a target pre-challenge, and D was mentioned as a target pre-challenge. And D was like, "Oh, my name was brought up, so I must be a threat now." I wonder how much of that was them prepping for them when winning immunity and no longer being options, and then they won it, so then that kind of solidifies. Okay, yeah, D is actually a threat. So I wonder how much it was before and after the challenge for sure. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think she's seen as just somebody who has had solid allies throughout the game, and not almost no one else can say that. And so that
Yes.
automatically makes you a threat.
Well, and that's the crazy thing because like original Reba, they're voting out their own members, but that core four is still stronger than I think any Bello connection. Like
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
can't think of a duo in Bello that is stronger than the four of them together. So like I
No.
think that is a threat worth watching, and I'm a little disappointed that people are onto her because I would like to see if she can run the game to the end, on this pace. But yeah, no, I mean, I thought the plan to go for Julie was a good plan, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you are Jake and Caleb, because again, there's I think they're going for those middle players. Like, let's not worry about Austin right now. Let's keep him in the game as again another target, and let's go for like this person that might switch back and forth and could outplay us in some way.
Tell him he can have a sandwich if he gets voted out. Then he'll just be like, you know what, I'll leave.
They did talk about that a little bit, didn't they? About the amulet with him and Kelly, and I think he was kind of
Yeah,
like not
that might have
really
been the biggest
concerned.
reason. Mm-hmm.
Or like I don't know. It was interesting. I was like, okay, I'm glad that he brought that up because it's one of those things I feel like we haven't seen really play out or talked about, especially like Jay going home. That wasn't seemingly a deciding factor. Um, so I don't know. I'm glad that it's on his mind. He's at least processing what you can do with that power.
Well, Jay was a backup ultimately, but yeah, I see what you mean. Um, yeah, that's the only thing that makes me nervous because I really enjoy Kelly and I enjoy watching her play and seeing her win like an immunity. It's like, oh, okay, she's not just this strategic, like this social person that we enjoy. Like, oh no, she's here to play. She knows what she's doing a little bit. Um, a part of me was sitting there when it was D and Kelly. I was like, one of you drop. Like, don't raise your threat level too much because I like both of them a lot. Also, just shout out. I love that challenge. I love the just like hang on a pole. I feel like we haven't seen that in a while, and it was exciting to see again.
Yeah, again with my watch party, a lot of them are newer, as in like 41 plus, and a season here or there in
Mm-hmm.
the past. Um, but they were like, "Oh, I've never seen this challenge." I was like, "What? Like, is that true? Like, is that true that we
This
haven't
is
had that?"
a
And then of
staple
course,
of Survivor.
there was a tease of next. I think it's next week. The Survivor auction's coming back, and that was another one
Yeah.
where I had to explain how that works because it's been so long.
Mm-hmm. I think another one that I'd love to see come back is where you have to hold your hand up, and if you like drop it too low, the water dumps on you.
Yeah,
I've always enjoyed that one too.
I like seeing people get wet.
Yep, that's what I meant by that. Anyways.
Let's talk about this other tribe, which is not
Yep.
nearly as interesting. And I don't even think I have any strong takes really on it. But it was made up of Sifu, Bruce, Rue, Emily, Kelly, and Dre.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 3 original Bello, 2 Reba, and then Emily there again. And really, this one was pretty much between Bruce and Sifu. Uh, Again, sure there were other names brought up, but like that was the dilemma that the producers let us kind of weigh out going to the tribal council. And
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, they vote out Sifu. Again, easy
Yeah.
vote. Not wanting to go for Bruce, and no one voted for Bruce other than Sifu. So everyone somehow got on the same page. Um, yeah, I mean, are you surprised by this? Do you think that someone should have done something or try to go for Bruce at this point?
Kendra was the one that really seemed like she was pushing for Bruce. I think you keep him. Well, I don't know, because that alliance seems so dysfunctional when Bruce is around, because none of them want to play with Bruce. That's just like what they need to do to further themselves in the game. But even when Kelly was like, "Hey Bruce, maybe don't do this. Maybe don't bring like ask questions in front of 15 people. Like maybe that's not a good." And then he just like completely defends it and argues with her. She's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Whatever. Sure. Yeah, you're fine. Do your thing." Like they don't want to play with him.
No.
And so keeping him around feels like a necessity, but there's a part of me that's like maybe you should have gotten him out of there just for that sake. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it really depends who you are, because I think like for Kelly's sake, she said in one of the confessionals, she's like, yes, I can't work with him, but like he trusts me, and he's
Yeah.
not. So I think like for her, like it does make sense at least for now. Obviously if you're like Katura or even Kendra at this point, like I don't think he likes Kendra very much, and he's suspicious about everyone. Let's be honest. But like
Except Kelly for some reason.
I think she's just that good. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
honestly.
I mean, let's be honest. If you saw Kendra's eyes staring at you, you'd probably be a little suspicious as well.
And they're terrifying.
Yeah. So I think like for Kendra, it makes sense because it's like this guy doesn't really trust me that much, like, and he's kind of out there. But for Kelly, he's like, yeah, he's out there, but he does trust me, so I don't want to do it yet. So I think once we get enough people that are on the same tribe or same tribal council, I think we could see him out in the next week or two. I just think with this small tribe, it just wasn't gonna happen. And again, I think it's one of those things like if Kelly's gonna do it, she should probably include other people and not just do it like without them. That's my
Hmm.
thinking. I could be wrong about that though.
I do think I do think these tribes split incredibly. Being 3-3 for like the Bello side and the Reba side, and both tribes, both Emily and Caleb were on separate tribes, and so they
Right.
were like with the side that they're probably closer to. Like that was a super cool development, and I think it raised a lot of opportunity for people making some risky plays, and just nobody did, which probably, like I said, was the correct move. You don't. It's honestly too early to make a massive move because then you become a massive target. But I want to see it, man. I just want to see it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it was fascinating too, just seeing like Drew kind of come into it. He's like, "Look, I don't care. Like, I'll cut Sifu. Like, whatever." And it's just.
He just like rolled over. Like there wasn't even a part of him that considered fighting anything.
It
And I was
is.
kind of surprised.
It's shocking how over Drew I am. Because I feel like the first 2 episodes or so were like, ooh, this guy's got some interesting, like, wow, he could
Hmm.
be. But like, everything he does almost just like annoys me at this point. Because, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
watching this. I'm like, you're not even playing. You're just like, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do. Which, again, is a strategy, I suppose. But you're not even going to try to come up. Like, it feels like he's just coasting at this point. Like, what was the last thing he did that was like significant or interesting or like socially aware even? I don't know. He's just bizarre, and I have such little hope for him moving forward.
And to be fair, he was in a tribe with or group that was like his three closest allies were all on the other side, and so he was completely alone. And so
Mm-hmm.
yes, you just kind of roll over and hope that it's not you. But man, he didn't even try to fight anything. He was like, "Nope, this is it."
Yep, exactly. And even because, like, I don't know, I feel like him and Emily could have something. Because the thing is, like, they had the votes, you know? Because, like, Emily wanted Bruce out, Kendra wanted Bruce out. I think it really just came down to, like, Kelly talking some sense into Kendra, you know, and
Hmm.
somehow getting through. So that's the interesting thing. Is like I think you could have made it work. Like if you actually wanted Bruce out, I think you could have talked enough people to get that 4-2 vote. But it just apparently no one was passionate enough to make that play. Which again,
Hmm.
probably we're saying the same thing. Don't want to take that risky of a move, split up like this.
Yeah, I was gonna mention Kelly talking to Kendra, and she kind of talked her down and was like, "We need to like not do this right now." But I feel like we've been talking up Kelly so much that I'm nervous she's gonna get voted out soon. So I was like, "I'll take it easy." And then you
That's
said it.
usually how it
Um,
goes with us.
yeah, I think realistically, if somebody talked to Kendra near tribal and was like, "Now might be your only chance to take care of Bruce." Like we don't know what happened with the other tribe yet, kind of thing. And but nobody went for it. And that would have been really funny to see Bruce go before jury.
It would have been, yes. Uh, that would have been really funny, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's I don't know. The more I like look at the numbers laid out right now, I think if the females can get on the same page, I think it could work. Cause you think about it, like a lot of them do have that similar like gameplay or at least target. You know, I think like you look at Kendra and Katura and Emily, even like they're all like, let's go for Bruce, right? Like they're over
Hmm.
him. You got Dee and Julie who are like wanting to actively go for these threats like Caleb. And so like it could really pan out that way if they get on the same page. Because like none of the issues are between any of the girls. Like that's the crazy thing. Is like any sort of rift that we have is usually like between the guys right now.
Yeah, that's very true. I think the issue will be Dee and Julie. I think Dee and Julie would rather work with Austin and Drew than an all girls alliance.
I
So
could
I think
see that.
ultimately it'll boil down to do they go that direction with all the girls or do they not? Because or do they
Mm-hmm.
stick with the two boys? Because there's how many girls are in the game? How many people
There's
are in the
one,
game?
two, three, four, five, 6 girls left and 4 guys.
Okay. Yeah, and so ditching them at this point, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think it'll be something that's floated. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the first time they're actually going to do something, it just flops, or maybe they get Bruce out and then it kind of spreads out from there. Because that even puts the Reba four in an even better spot.
I could really see that. Like I could see Bruce going next week or the week after, and after that, a major reshuffle. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because I think once you get him out, like, what is your common ground? Like, do you all have the same similar goal? And I mean, 6 people is a lot for an alliance at this point in the game too. So I'm assuming like there will be a bottom of that alliance, and if that bottom recognizes it, do they reach out to the other people that aren't it? You know, so like
Mm-hmm.
it could be fun. Obviously, it won't ride out to the end, but I'd be down to see that happen.
I have a question for you, Nathan. Looking at
Okay.
these final 10, how many can you look at right now and think you could see them winning this season, or you'd be like happy with them winning this season at where we're currently at? Obviously, anything could happen in this end game and make us love somebody or hate somebody. But who do you
I
realistically look
okay.
at and think
I
I'd be happy with, or I can see?
I feel like those are two different questions because there's some people I could see
They
winning,
are,
but I'm
as I
not
was.
happy about it. So which one do you
But you,
want?
would you be happy? Would you be happy in that like they were a deserving winner? Like they deserve to win. Let's do it in that they would be a deserving winner.
I think there might only be one person. Is that true? That I think wouldn't be like deserve. Maybe two. Two that I would feel like, oh, they could have done more.
Okay, who are those?
I think Kendra and Jake. Those are the two where at this moment I don't see anything in their game that make me be like they deserve to beat these other people. Everyone else
Okay.
I could make an argument for.
I could see that.
That's a
I don't
lot
know.
though to say like 8 people I would be okay with. But I honestly like
Yeah,
there's no issue I would have with anyone else.
I feel like so. I think I disagree on Austin. For me, just feels like I haven't seen any real strategy from him. I don't think. I feel, or maybe I just in my head, it's always been Drew that's brought up the strategy, but I don't know that I would trust Austin that much.
I
So
think
I don't know
I've
if I'd love him.
turned. I think my me walking it back on Drew has shifted all to Austin, and I think to me I see Drew as like I'll just say I think Drew's gonna go 100% before Austin. I think Austin is
Yeah.
much better socially with people. And I mean, like, he's got a bunch of advantages, which, again, like, is that a fun way to play the game? Not necessarily, but, like, you get to the end, he gives out his resume of, I found this, I got this, I got that, like, it's something.
I don't know if I see Drew winning the game either. I think you're right. I think Austin I would see having a better chance. I can't imagine Drew sitting in those final 3 seats
I would have to
and
have
having
Drew
a
as,
good
like,
argument.
I would have him as number 7 on this ranking if I had to.
Yeah.
Like, on the, yes, I agree with that. He's tough.
Emily
Uh,
has a great story and I could see her doing some cool stuff at the end.
yep, I like Emily. Obviously, Dee and Kelly, I think we're both fans of.
Mhm.
uh, even,
I
like,
don't love Julie.
okay, so I think Julie could be a sleeper. And again, this is I feel like I'm contradicting myself because I'm saying on this moment. But to me, I think like her social game is pretty good, and like I think if she can get to the end and really hone that, like I had this alliance, I stuck with it, blah 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 blah. I think there's something there. I agree. I might need to see something a little more, but I think just the way she's positioned now, I could see her going far.
Okay. Couture is another one that I have a hard time seeing.
Now she's my number 2, I think.
Really.
I think the story's there, and now I think the move is there. So
I think the story's there.
I think she's on pace to like getting that resume up. You just
You
don't
think
like her. It's
that's a
fine.
move? You think
I
that's a
do.
move? It's a move. It's a move. You think that's a move though? Huh.
Yes, getting out one of the biggest threats, being that swing vote, and if she's able to build on that,
That brings up exactly what I want, where I wanted to go next. If we're good on that conversation.
that's fine. Yes.
All right. So obviously, Nathan, we do a podcast talking about Big Brother and Survivor, right?
Hmm?
Is Caleb a social Cameron? Where he's incredible socially, like Cameron was incredible this season. Cameron was incredible physically,
what a
but to the
weird
point where he is
question.
not
Okay.
able, is he not able to manage his threat level at all? And so, like, like we talked about Cameron not being that great of a player because he's incapable of like
I would
lowering
say
that threat
he
level.
is a bad
I would
player.
put Caleb.
Yes.
I would put Caleb in that same category. Yep, that's essentially what I was asking. I was just going
Uh-huh.
all around with it.
Okay, so like the comparison is that like Cameron won so many competitions, and if he could
Hmm.
just do the smallest social thing, he would be better, or possibly still in the game. Caleb, incredibly social player, but if he could do one thing else, I don't know. Because here's the thing: is like I don't know. Is Caleb a good social player?
What you said, I disagree with. So I think so. Cameron is a phenomenal challenge person, but the problem is he did so much of it that his threat level had raised so much that now he was the big target because he was so good at
Uh-huh.
competitions. So if he had lost a few, then he would have been in a better position, I think. And that's where I'm kind of at. And maybe that's not a perfect comparison to Cameron, but with Caleb, he was talking to too many people, having too many conversations. He was too like likable and charming, and like if he could have reined that in and maybe just like
Mm-hmm.
still been himself and still been friendly, but you gotta know that you're making yourself a massive social threat, and people are gonna be nervous about that from pretty early, from like the first 2 votes.
Yeah.
I like we got rid of. He's a massive threat. Like that should be a smack in the face, and then you realize I need to tone this down, but he just couldn't. He constantly was just talking to everybody. and like couldn't get out of his own way almost. And that's how I feel about Cameron in some ways.
Yeah, I guess because okay, here's the interesting thing. Like with Cameron, if he could have kept it up, the comp wins, it would have been good.
Mm,
If Caleb keeps up the social game, it's impossible. So I think that's the thing. Is like I'm questioning, is Caleb as good of a player as we thought he was? Because we're saying he's so good socially that it got him in trouble. Then maybe
mhm.
he wasn't good socially. You know, that's where I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would, because he's in the grand scheme of human beings, he's a very strong social person. As a person, he's very social. He's very likable. He's
Uh
very
huh.
like easy to talk to, easy to be comfortable around. But is he is he bad socially because he's too good
Okay.
socially? Is that kind of what you're saying?
I view a social gameplay different as being like a sociable person. I think you
Okay.
can, because to me a social gameplay is like it's all about reading people. It's responding the way that you need to for them to like trust you. It's all these things, and I think what we've seen is he didn't really do that well.
Okay.
I think like you look at the pre-swap, he had some moves there. It was mainly working with Emily, who was like at the bottom and was probably getting voted out, right? Like that was kind of
Mm,
the biggest thing that he pulled into there. But then post swap, he never went to tribal with them. And so I think like we saw like, wow, he's building connections with Bello. But turns out he never had them because the first time he goes to tribal, none of them were with him. You know what I mean? So I think that's what I'm questioning. Is like, how did I view that as a social game? Because clearly none of it led to anything.
I think I've always viewed social game not exclusively as this, but like how likable you are by your tribe mates, how entertaining you are to be around, and how like the kind of some of the stuff you said, I would say almost more strategic. Like when talking game, how do you respond? Maybe there's just a disconnect in like those understandings, and maybe I need to change my understanding.
I think I'm just
But
wondering, like, if he is a likable person, but they still vote him out, how do you, explain that?
but he's too likable.
That's yeah,
Like
sure.
he's likable to the point that he like that. That's genuinely what I think it is. I think
But then I don't
he
think that's
makes
a good
people.
social gameplay.
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Okay. This is fascinating.
And
I
that's what I'm
really I
saying
really
is
like this
he's
thought.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like he was very strong socially, but he wasn't able to like temper that. He wasn't able to be careful, make sure that he wasn't being seen talking to everybody and making friends with everybody and being like super close to because that's what made Bruce nervous is he's talking to everybody and he's flying all over the place, checking in with everybody. And that's what made Bruce turn on him is he was too sociable to everybody. And so
Mhm.
if he tones that down, he's still a sociable person, he's still a friendly person, but toning that down like I would say Cameron toning down the competition wins. Cameron is an interesting case because I think he would have gotten voted out if he toned down his competition wins, to be fair. But yeah,
Yeah.
I just saw that comparison where I think a lot of normies will watch this season and be like, Caleb is the best player in the game. Why did he get voted out so early? He's so great at
Mhm.
Survivor.
Yeah.
We want to see him come back. And I don't know that he is that great of a player because he isn't able to manage that threat
Yeah,
of his
no,
social game.
I completely agree. I just think it's hard to know how to define that because it could be he's a very good social player, but the strategy wasn't there, maybe, and maybe that's what I don't know. Because I think like in the real world, he's probably great socially, right? Like I think
Hmm.
like that's it. But like in the game of Survivor, that doesn't always help you get far. I think of this is probably a bad example, but I think of Tony, who this his second time he played. Not you,
I know, I know.
the winner of Survivor. You are not a winner of a Survivor like game. Okay, that is a
You didn't
fact.
have to, man. You didn't have to say that. That was just rude.
But like the second time he played, he was horrible. Right, just went way too hard. Blah blah blah
Hmm.
blah. Winners at War, he completely learns when to turn it on, when to turn it off, and I
Hmm.
think to me that is such an important skill. Is like even if you're good at something, it's important to know when you need to put that on. And I think Caleb, like, he could be very good socially, but have a bad social game because he doesn't know when to turn it off. And I think that was the issue.
Hmm. I think that's the hard part is having the different verbiage because
Yes, it
I would
is.
say he's good socially and but playing a bad social game. Like there's those they're so similar. I would almost wonder if I kind of how I view the game is similar to like how I don't know if it's this is like actual the definition, but like knowledge and wisdom. Like knowledge is something you can have, you know a lot of things, but wisdom is how you apply that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the actual definition, but it's almost like social game is like how likable you are, how friendly you are, but strategy is how you apply that. I think that's kind of how I view it.
Sure, because I even think, like, having the most social game isn't always a benefit. Like, sometimes it's good to not have a relationship with everyone. You know?
Hmm.
Like, I would argue there's sometimes
Absolutely.
where having a known enemy is beneficial. Like, there's some, you know what I mean? So I think, like, that was his thing. It was like, he played the game where I want everyone to be working with me. And we know that
Hmm.
never works. So yeah, I agree. Like I think in hindsight, it's going to be fascinating to try to describe his game because up until this point, I think we all viewed him as like, wow, he's making moves, but turns out it led to absolutely nothing. So,
Hmm.
were those moves? That's the question.
And if he did that at like final six, just went off and started making all these moves, that's a winning game. But doing it right before you get voted out as the first jury member, not a winning game.
And I think that's my thing, like, because to bring back to Cameron and Big Brother, I think like my point with him has always been he won competitions and that was it. The second he was
Hmm.
eligible to be voted out, he got voted out.
Hmm.
Same thing with Caleb. The past few weeks, he's been safe because he hasn't gone to tribal. Like again, week 2, 3, he got obviously he was safe those first few weeks, but like once he started becoming social, he never went to tribal. The first time he goes to tribal, votes. The second time he goes to tribal, votes. So it's like
Yeah.
clear that yeah. So that's I think that there's a good comparison with them there too.
I feel like there was like a 5 minute period there where you and I said social or socially or social game, like 50% of the words that were said.
Oh, that was your question, so I don't know what you want me to say.
I know, I know. It was just, I wonder if it's going to be challenging to follow.
I probably. I feel like we just go on these tangents that I don't know if anyone thinks that way that we do.
Yeah, but that's my favorite part. We get so in depth with it that other people
you
might not even think that way.
No, you'll never hear a podcast that talks about it, whatever. Anything else about this episode or any other players you want to discuss?
I don't believe so. They got some DIY tacos.
Yeah, and sausage, tacos and sausage, as Jeff said.
Oh, weird.
Yeah,
Sausage is
it
weird.
was odd wording, like tacos and sausage. Like what?
Ooh, I don't like that one bit.
All right, for more episodes, visit notgameallpersonal.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Really follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube at NGAP Pod. That is at NGAP Pod. I'm Nathan. This is Tony, and we will see you next week.
45 seasons, 2 pals, 1 podcast.
All right, if you're listening to this, that's Tony's sound effect to signify that we are now in the future.
Yes.
Thanks, past selves, for correctly predicting everything that happened. We're a little off. We're a little wrong, Tony, in our predictions of what happened in this finale.
Yeah, we're close.
Okay. I'll just run through what actually happened real quick, and then we can just talk about it all.
All right.
You were correct in the winner of the final HOH, which was Jag.
Mm-hmm.
We were both correct that it would be Matt and Jag in the end. Okay? Jag decided to evict Bowie, take Matt to the final 2. We were both incorrect about who wins it, but I technically have more correct jury votes than you. So I don't know how we're scoring this. We both were right about Cameron, Suri, and Blue. We were both incorrect about Corey in America. they both voted for Jag. And then I was correct in Felicia and Bowie's vote, being for Matt and Jag, and you just flipped those.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were incorrect about the winner of America's Favorite Houseguest, but we both guessed 2 of the top 3 vote getters,
Mm-hmm.
which were Sari, Matt, and then Cameron winning it. So if we're going based on predictions alone, I have one more correct prediction, but if they're weighted at all, which we did not discuss
Hey, we were just having fun. We were just having fun.
Right.
Wanted to get some predictions because we were recording Survivor. It doesn't matter. Let's just call it a wash.
Are you just saying that
That's
because
not
I had
you
more
got one more than me.
predictions?
No, of course not. Because I feel like
All
that
right.
final HOH should be weighted more than a single vote.
That's what I think, but we didn't discuss it, so there's no way to know. There's no way to know who won this.
Let's just talk about the season. Let's just have a friendly conversation. No competition.
No competitions today, not until the reindeer games, then it's only competitions.
Well, then it's only competitions.
How are you feeling? We were recording this 2 days after the finale. Did you watch it yesterday, I'm guessing?
Yep, I watched it yesterday morning right away because I couldn't go on social media without seeing something that I was scared was going to spoil me.
Sure.
I walked away. I walked away pretty satisfied. I think I would have been satisfied either way if Matt or Jag had won. I do think Jag was just better when it came to the questions, was better when it came to the speech. Maybe a bit aggressive. We'll get into it a little bit more, I'm sure. He was a bit much, but he seemed significantly more prepared and just knew what his game was and was ready to argue for it. So I was very happy with Jag winning. Yeah, what about you?
I mostly agree. I don't know if I'm satisfied. I think at the end, Jag winning was the best case scenario with what we were given at that moment in time. Out of these 2 people, after hearing the final speeches, I think he deserved the win. So yeah, I think in the moment I was like, okay, this feels right. I'm over the fact that he got evicted 10-0. I'm over the fact that this season was very based on who can win the most competitions. I've already had enough time to get over that for the most part. So at this point, it's yeah, he deserves to win this game. I think after processing it though, being 2 days out since I did watch it live, I'm a little more just whatever about it. I think walking away from the finale, I was like, cool, good finale. Maybe the season wasn't that bad. But then in the past 2 days, I just either haven't thought about it at all, which bothers me because I should be more excited that one of my favorite shows just had a big finale. And then I don't know, when I do think about it, I'm like, oh man, the season was kind of a waste in a lot of ways. So I don't know. I'm very torn still, and I think a lot of it is still just emotions of things we have talked about that we're not huge fans of with this whole season. But yeah, I can't be mad at Jag winning because I do think he deserved it in the end.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask. Is your frustration since that, or not frustration, but your apathy since the season ended, is it based on Jag's win or just the season itself or the format?
Yeah, I think it's just mostly the season and the format because Jag, I always say, or I've been saying more so, I truly believe the game more so than anything else is to get jury votes, and he did it. So he won, and it wasn't even by 1 vote, right? It was 5-2. So I mean, that's a better win than a lot of people have had, where it is decided by 1 person. I think I'm just not a fan of what the show has become. So dependent on the competitions, which again we have gone so in depth on other episodes. But that has nothing to do with him. He played the game that these producers and Big Brother itself created, right? So I can't fault him for doing what wins you a game. It's not on him, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And without getting into a massive conversation, because I feel like we've done that the past 4 podcasts.
Yes.
About challenges need to be better.
And we could do it.
This season, and kind of the way that Jag framed it, if we're gonna say that being in control of the game is extremely valuable, which I think we do when we look back at historical games and especially people who control the game without winning competitions, that's
Sure.
extremely impressive.
Hmm.
But these last few wins, who have been people who have won a lot of competitions, that has put them in control to make the decision that is best for their game, and they've done that.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, the complaint is absolutely with, okay, we should have competitions that aren't being won by the same person every time, every season.
Yeah.
But if you're able to do that and able to entirely control the game, you absolutely deserve to win, especially when it feels like you were in the driver's seat, which it did for Jag.
Yeah. And I do wonder. I haven't really dove into a lot of like exit interviews or post finale interviews by like the jurors or whatnot, but I do wonder how much of it was affected by the speeches, because I think a lot of the times, they kind of go into that night with a very strong idea of who they're going to vote for. Like obviously, like Suri was not affected at all by the speeches. Um,
Hmm.
she just voted for Matt because she wanted to vote for Matt, and I don't think that was going to change. But I do wonder, like, were Corey and America affected by those speeches? Because to me, it wasn't even close at that point. I mean, I think Matt gave one of the worst final two performances I can remember. I think in recent years, Enzo comes to mind where he pretty much just gave
Hmm.
up. He's like, Cody, thank you for the $50,000. I appreciate it. And walked off,
Yeah.
But like, I think Jag perfectly outlined, like, yes, I was in control. Here's why. And whether or not it's true doesn't actually matter. I think he was convincing in that, because I would argue, like, there were a lot of times where he didn't deserve the credit that he was taking. And I think, we get that macro perspective of watching the live feeds and seeing who was actually in control of some of those weeks. But, like, it doesn't
Hmm.
matter because Jag sold it and Matt didn't. Matt pretty much said, oh, it was the two of us together. And Jag said, nope, it was me. And Matt didn't stop that. So it's like, what are you going to do? Clearly, the jury has to believe that it was Jag.
Yeah, I think the jury goes in with like this mentality of, I need Matt to say specific things to make
Mm-hmm.
him earn my vote, or I need Jag to say specific things to make him earn my vote.
Yeah.
And I think Jag owned everything that he did. One of the big things that Jag said was like, everybody that I wanted to go home went home. And like, regardless of whether or not he's in control of that or he's the one who made that decision, like that is what he wanted and it happened, and that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Um and Matt, yeah, I think there is something to be said that I wonder if his disability, if not being able to hear super well, was a challenge when it came to jury questions. And that's something that doesn't sit super well with me, but I don't know how you really remedy that because they're coming up with these questions on this. Well, not well, they're planned for the most part, but but he just seemed. I read an article before we did this. He was just unprepared for the jury questions in general. I don't think he was aware of what it was going to be like. He said that like some of them he was like, "Ooh, that's kind of critical," and like was kind of like taken aback by like, "Oh, okay, this is what this is." So Jag was just significantly more prepared.
Yeah, I did see that too. And that's interesting because I don't know. I guess I wasn't super aware of like who has seen the show more, whether it was Matt or Jag, but I think like that is an advantage if you know what's coming. So like I don't know if
Hmm.
that's a fault on the show. Like should they prepare him more for the types of questions that were going to be asked? Because to me, it was like these are very basic questions that you need to answer and you're
Hmm.
not. Like one of the first questions was like we know that you saved Jag when he got evicted, blah 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 blah. What else have you done? Because right now we think Jag is the leader, and then Matt's answer was like, Jag's not the leader. We both are. And it's like that. What do you? What? No, that's not what we asked. That's not answering anything. And
Hmm.
then I mean, I think my favorite part was when he was like, I was willing to go to rock paper scissors for this. It's like, what? Like that's not. That is not
He's
a
so
feather
loyal,
in your
Nathan.
cap. Like
No.
he just like clearly was not prepared at all.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to pull that card. Ultimately, I think what it boiled down to, at least from what I was watching, is from that end game, from like Cameron on, from the jury section on, they were lockstep and they made every decision together. So they weren't able to like distinguish the games at all. The only distinguishing factor, I think, is that Jag was like, we're taking out Suri. Like that's just what we're
Right.
doing.
Yep.
And he like convinced Matt to be okay with it, but that was Jag being like, no, this is a decision that was better for my game because I know that she was better for Matt. And so
Mhm.
me and Bowie got rid of her. And so he was able to point to something, anything in that end game that distinguished his game. Yes, Matt saved Jag and had him as like a shield for the rest of the game, which I think is true, and I think that was partially Matt's mentality. But sometimes you need to take out your shield. You're not just waiting for somebody else to do it. And he didn't have an opportunity really. But
Yeah.
that's ultimately what it boiled down to is Jag made decisions outside of that duo in that end game, I think.
Well, and I think the fact that he saved Matt twice at the end, right? Like at the final four, and then also taking him to final two. So, like there is a clear distinction. And yes, those two reasons were because of competitions. So again, more of a competition boost to your resume. But still, Matt cannot say, I'm here on my own. He has to say, I am here because Jag saved me twice. That's tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you come back from that?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, Jag was just so much better with I really enjoyed the line that I bathed in your blood essentially or whatever he said. He's like I'm covered in your blood. The delivery wasn't the best. But like the sentiment of the line, all of it just felt like he was yelling a lot of it, but it was a really good speech. It was like anybody that I wanted out got out. There was one thing in one of the questions that he pointed out that I thought was super good. And an interesting way to look at the game, but I can't think of what it was. Shoot.
Bummer. It sounds like it would have been great content to talk
Dude,
about.
it would have been dynamite, and it would have fit in at that point just perfectly.
Well, somewhere in
We'll come
another
back to it.
BB multiverse, the two of us are discussing that question. That's how that works,
Yeah.
right?
I do have another question for you.
Yes.
How does it sit with you having a winner who was voted out unanimously?
I think I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yes. Only because, again, this is what the game is. This is what the rules set up. The rules clearly allowed him to stay in the game. The rules of the game don't knock that against him. It's all up to the jury, I think the same thing about, and this might be controversial because I know I'm much higher on this person than you and others, but I think of Chris Underwood in Survivor, right? Same comparison. He was voted out. A lot of people do not like his win or value his win because of that fact. And while I can see why he's not as strong a winner as other Survivor winners, that was the rule of that season, So it's like, again, I can't fault him for playing the rules that the show set up. So I don't know. I think I'm over it. I think if we keep continuing on this path of in 20 years we still have Big Brother on the air, these twists are going to continue, and we're probably going to have multiple winners who this has happened to. This isn't going to go away. The show isn't going to stop these twists. And so I don't know. I don't think it's, for me, I'm just kind of over dwelling on that. He doesn't deserve to win because of this fact.
I appreciate that. I think that's a good point. I do, and I was trying to articulate this yesterday when I was talking to someone. There's something about the fact that Matt is the one that saved Jag that negates it for me. The fact that he was up against in Final 2 against the person who saved him. It's like, okay, I'm not going to count this against you because Matt chose this. Matt chose that he wanted to face you, so that doesn't matter to me anymore at all because that's just what you asked for. And so it feels unfair to hold that against him in that scenario.
Yeah, if anything,
but I'm not sure why.
I know what you mean. I really agree with that because if it was someone else against Jag, I think you'd be like, well, the only reason Jag is there is because this random person who went out the next week took him, and now that's not fair to Matt. But for Matt, you're the one that did this, Matt. You're the one that saved him, which how would he know at the time, of course. But there is all the responsibilities placed on him here, which that's a really interesting thought, can you, I think you can point that to Matt's biggest mistake in the game perhaps, but then without Jag, does he get to the end, So I don't know. It's one of those scenarios that I think would be really fun to break down at some point and see the different ripples that would occur if Matt saves that for the next eviction, which would have been the next eviction. I'm trying to see right now. I think it would have been Red. That's interesting. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. It was just a thought that I had. I thought it was intriguing. The idea that that he asked for it essentially. It's so hard to wonder what would have happened if he hadn't saved Jag, because Matt's social game was very good, and so you wonder, would he have made it that far without Jag? But then all of those different competitions would have had different winners. You'd have to like analyze. Yeah, that would be too much, and it's just foolish to do so. Honestly,
Someone that we haven't brought up yet that was very much a part of this a little bit was Bowie Jane, who, no surprise, came in third place. And truly one of the most bizarre exits, one of the most cringy jury questions I've ever heard. Just
what was that? She just wanted to be like, I was a part of this. Remember, guys?
That was 100% what it was. She saw her alliance sit in the final two and wanted to let the world know, hey, I'm also a part of this, while physically not being a part of it. It's just... I think it was perfect. I think any more emphasis on the fact that she like clearly messed up her game, made giant mistakes by taking that, all this stuff, I think that would have been a little too much. This was like the perfect, where it was just such a nothing. Like there was even her exit interview with Julie had nothing to ask her. There was absolutely nothing to say. It's like, oh, Bowie Jane's out. Oh, okay. Anyways, moving on.
It's genuinely fascinating how little impact she had on the game socially and strategically. Like, yes, she won those HOHs, and that mattered, absolutely. I think it's unfair to say that it didn't. But the fact that she just felt like an extension of those two in those scenarios, and like really didn't... I can't think of anything she did throughout the entire season other than win those HOHs and do what they wanted her to do. And so, it's just it's a fascinating game. I don't know if I've ever seen... I don't think we've ever seen anything like it.
Well, and there was also like the big reveal when they're doing all this person's an attorney, this person is mother son, Bowie Jane's 45, like nothing, no one cares, everyone like it's just the
half of them knew.
It's not a reveal. She is a nothing of a person, and I don't even feel bad saying that anymore, because I don't think anything could get through to her to make her understand how critical people are of her game.
Yeah, I feel like it was probably a rude awakening leaving the house for her.
Yeah. But enough about her. What else do we got to talk about that is significant? You want to talk about...
If they bring her back... Never mind, we'll talk about that later.
The reindeer games? Is that what you're going to say?
I was going to say, but we hadn't mentioned them yet, so I felt like I couldn't.
We'll get there. We'll have to have a whole bonus episode dissecting what... Let's just talk about it now. Are you gonna watch this? I don't think I could watch this.
If it's 12 former Big Brother players, I'm absolutely gonna watch it.
I don't even care about... I just don't... I don't care. Because here's the thing. The competitions are the worst part of Big Brother. And I don't even think that's like a subjective fact. Like...
But do you think they're gonna do Big Brother? I feel like it's just gonna be buddy games, but Big Brother players.
Did you watch the buddy games?
No, I guess not. But those would give me the vibe of being a little bit more like campy or Survivor-y than Big... Because I was going to mention this when we recorded Survivor the other day. I watched the Survivor challenges, and I'm invested in the Survivor challenges.
Yep, every week.
They were just hanging on a pole this week. Just hanging on a pole, and I was locked in. And then Big Brother, I just don't... Well, I know who won, and so that's part of it, absolutely, for the most part. But... And I guess if they're still going to be in the house, they're still locked into that space, and so that's still going to be an issue when it comes to competitions. I don't know. I'm going to watch it probably, and hopefully it's something fun.
You can let me know how it is, because I as of now do not plan on it. If I have so much free time and I hear good things, maybe I'll check it out. Because challenges aren't the issue, because you're right. Like Survivor, we love the challenge, which is literally a show of competitions. But the thing is, like, Big Brother, just everything about it. Like, they're in these goofy costumes, having, like, slime all over them. There's, like, this so generic soundboard effects that they're adding to it. The confessionals in between are so boring and so bad. I mean, I think that's part of it. Like, Survivor doesn't have confessionals when it comes to the competition, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
come in and out saying like I need to win immunity so I'm safe. No, but Big Brother decides to go with the 8 different people to explain. So the point of this competition, I need to win so I can win the power of veto and take myself off. Like we know it. Like they take something that I like to watch on TV and somehow make it unwatchable. Like most Big Brother fans I know don't pay attention or just skip the competitions.
Mm-hmm. They made fun of it in a recent episode of Big Brother, where Jag was like, "So basically, in this competition, it's like, no, it's obvious. This is what we're doing." I don't remember which one it was, and
It
I don't know
was
if you remember that at
it
all.
was when they were doing rock paper scissors.
Oh
For
yeah,
the
yeah, he was about to explain rock paper scissors. That yeah, I thought that was funny, making fun of themselves, but still, it sucks. Yeah, that's interesting. The fact that they don't do confessionals in Survivor at all, and that could be a huge
Although I
part of
will
it. They're
say
also
they do them in the challenge though. So
yeah,
I
they
guess
do
there's
them in the
that.
challenge. That's for sure.
So maybe that's not the
I
issue.
I feel like they're trying to make Big Brother. Not they're trying. They have made Big Brother kind of the kid friendly CBS property. By like adding in all of these goofy jokes, but then also there's like the big bit about the condoms being missing like earlier in the season.
I
And
was
so
gonna
like there's some of
say
that stuff
like
mixed in where it's like, is this supposed to be kid and goofy? Because that's what it feels like you're trying to present based on the colors and costumes, but then you're giving us this kind of content. And
yeah,
Big
I would
Brother,
argue that like Survivor is way more family friendly.
yeah, I was gonna say Big Brother by its very nature is more adult because you're seeing every minute of these people and
Yeah.
pulling every minute. So why are we making it so childish as a show, like the way that we edit it, when I feel like it is a more adult type thing? And I feel like kids don't watch Big Brother and just like fall in love with it.
No, they do not. I guarantee you Gen Z is not latching onto it.
No,
It's not it.
certainly not. Certainly not.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't care. Maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I'm being harsh now. But even like I have very little faith that these are gonna be Survivor legends that I care about. Even like the first 3 are they just it's random. Like
I
could
like
you
Derek and
find
Tiffany.
sure, but like for I and then Jordan who hasn't been on TV in like 10 years? What
Yeah.
it's there's no theme, there's no logic.
Hmm. Well, Reindeer Games is the theme.
And I mean, I'm probably 90% sure they're going to ask Cameron to be on now that he's
Yeah, it's
America's
probably Cameron,
hero, which
apparently. Well,
I don't want to see him on my screen anymore personally.
I don't know. I'm not that down on Cameron. His gameplay was fun. People love him. He's not good, but people love him.
That was the moment, I think. I was like okay, Jag won, cool. When he won, my jaw dropped. I was furious. I was not happy about it. I've softened up a little bit, but I was
Did you even
so
guess him
mad.
for final 3?
Yeah, we did. We both
Okay,
did.
I wasn't sure if you did as well. I knew I did.
No, our difference was I thought America could get it, and then you said Felicia.
So we're both wrong on the wrong one.
But let me tell you, the
Dang.
Facebook group is thriving.
Oh, I believe it.
They're screaming justice for the season. They're like, thank God. Oh, he's so humble. He didn't. And let me remind you, this was his plan. And I think that's what irks me the most is even on stage, he's still trying to play this like good guy, humble. What? People like me? Like he literally talked about it on the live feeds, how this was his plan for the edit. He was well aware what the DR was doing. Like he knew the questions that they were asking. He talked about it with other people. They didn't show his goodbye messages on his episode because they wanted like, I don't know what it is with CBS, but they wanted to portray him as this person, right? And it worked. And I think that's what irritates me the most is like he is playing such, and I'm not saying he's like not a good guy, you know, like I clearly do not know him, but like it just, I don't know why it irritates me that he's playing this character and it is successfully getting all like these casuals that don't watch the live feeds.
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think you're going a little too far in the like how planned out. Yes, when you're when you realize that you're probably not going to win anything, you want to kind of make a play for like, oh, but I want to be likable. I want people to like enjoy me, and maybe I can come back someday. I think that makes a lot of sense. Do I think that it's this maniacal plan and the entire time up there he was like, oh my gosh, and it was all just like him pretending? Not necessarily. I feel like that would be stunning regardless to win over. I think when he was a little stunned that he was even in the final three, it was like, all right, guy, take it easy. Like, well, does he know? Like, I guess based on what they were asking, I don't know. I don't know. It feels like you're being a little critical. That's my
I
take.
am. I'm very
A
critical.
little excessively critical.
I'm over him. I'm so over him. Okay, can you explain this to me though?
Yep.
Why do people like his game but not Matt and Jags? Because it feels like a lot of those people, like there's a lot of people that are complaining about, the show being so based on competitions. We don't like Jags as a winner because all he did is win. He didn't have a social game. Didn't Cam have the same game? Like, I don't understand how we view Cam as like this underdog who turned the season around when he literally did the same thing that the people we don't like did. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I think he was the turning point that turned the season around, though.
So, if anything,
Like,
shouldn't that
'cause
be
early in the
worse?
season-
Because he made the season, let's just win competitions.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess when you really look at it, that's probably the case. I think early on people weren't a fan of the like. Were people a fan of like Felicia, Izzy, and Suri early on?
The Facebook group was not, and I think that was kind of it. Because here's what I don't understand. Okay,
Facebook group is our version of just like the normal Big
yes,
Brother.
that is a code for people. Like, again, if you haven't heard me rant about this, the Facebook group, Twitter universe, Reddit, 3 completely different communities, and I group them all together when I try to talk about, because
Yeah.
I love monitoring all 3 because Twitter was losing their mind. They're ready to boycott Big Brother because Cam won. Facebook is celebrating that the season was saved because he won. It's so funny. But like, here's what, because the season up until I would argue the season was better pre-Cameron winning all the stuff. That was my like the pre-jury was my favorite part because we had multiple alliances that I wouldn't even call alliances that they're voting each other out. Like there weren't sides. It was so fluid. Everything was working together. Cam starts winning, and then the whole season turns into competitions only. So I don't know like why. And my whole point of that is it feels like there are people who dislike Jag for winning competitions, but they love that Cameron did it. And I don't understand how you can like dislike one and like the other.
Because Cameron has big hair and a southern accent.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't understand. I'm really
That's fair.
ranting here, but that's
a fair point.
that's
fair
all
point.
I've been processing the past 2 days.
Really went in on Cameron. I love it. Were there any other parts of this finale that stood out to you that warrant discussion?
Any other parts of the finale? I mean, there's all the reveals, I think Suri and Jared got a decent reaction. I was a little disappointed that the camera wasn't more faced on the jury. I felt like for the first 10 seconds, it flipped to like the pre-jury, and it took like a minute before I could even see what like America and Corey's reaction were. So that's my one complaint about it is like, I don't know why we didn't just hold the camera there on the people who were being surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been nice. Absolutely. Yeah, it was a very interesting reveal. It didn't feel super satisfying to me. It really didn't. I don't know why. I think Matt and Jag's reaction was huge. They like prefaced it with all these like weenie reveals where it's like, oh, she's 10 years older. Oh my gosh. Oh, she's a lawyer. And like then going to that should be a massive reveal that I want people to unpack. I want people to legitimately unpack and be like, wow, that was kind of unfair that we had to play against this secret alliance. Like I would love to hear somebody say that. And no one really did. Everybody was like, wow, that's awesome. That's so cool. And I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah, I thought Corey's comment was the best because he like subtly said it, but also being playful, which you kind of had, because if you show frustration there, CBS just won't ask you back for another show, so you have to be okay with it at that point.
Oh yeah, true.
But yeah, I like he was like, yeah, I voted you out, and then tried working. Like, cool. So like, and I think Felicia said the same thing. Like, oh, I couldn't. So yeah, I would love to hear more of their uncensored thoughts of the fact that they didn't have a chance when it came to some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As well of a game as you played, you were gonna lose because of this wall that was
Mm-hmm.
impossible to get through,
Mm-hmm.
which sucks because a lot of them went out because
But
of that.
but thankfully, that they didn't win. Like, yes, it affected the game. People went out earlier than they might have otherwise, but ultimately, that relationship didn't affect the end game at all.
No, I think it just affected who got to the end game. And I think if like Suri did end up winning, that'd be a much deeper conversation that we would have to hash out as far as like,
Mm-hmm.
did she deserve it based on these conditions that she was working under?
Very thankful we don't have to do that. Very thankful.
No, although her winning Big Brother would have been cool in any other scenario.
Yeah, but it would have felt, no matter what, it would have felt cheap and felt like it was handed to her. Some of the Big Brother, or some of the like Survivor returnee wins felt like it was designed for that person to win. And that's what it would have felt like this season of Big Brother would have felt like for her.
That's
Just
fair.
designed for her to win.
Yeah, I
One
think it's
thing,
a yeah. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say one thing that I wanted to touch on. Did you
Mhm.
see America's Gritty up to the key thing when she was voting?
I loved it.
Yep, I just
I
wanted
loved
to
it
touch
so
base on
much.
that. It was lovely.
Everything there's a video going around of her this morning in the parking lot, screaming at I think Jag's family, whatever.
Oh,
It's very funny. I mean, it's like a joke,
playful
but
screaming, I assume.
she's been yeah she tweeted at Corey because Corey the first tweet he had out of the Big Brother house he just said, "So they're really mother and son, huh?" And that was it. And then America replied. She says, "She's like, hi, can you DM me? Like I went to go get food or something, but never got your number. Love to catch up or something." And it was so good.
I love that. Would love to
Uh,
touch base. Yeah, thanks.
there's also a lot of discourse around Riley in the Big Brother world since
Hold on.
what?
I remembered my thing from earlier that I forgot,
Okay,
and I don't want to forget it again.
yeah, no, go ahead. I'll remember my thing.
So sorry, everybody, to just completely shift gears. But when Jag answered the question about, like, hey, why didn't you tell any of us that we were going out? Why did you just let us get, like, blindsided? And him being like, telling you what was going to happen was a risk. And I was not willing to take that risk. So I just allowed you to leave and then told you the truth in the DR, in your goodbye messages, essentially. I loved that answer. I love the idea of, like, I'm not willing to take on the risk of you flipping something just because I am trying to be nice and give you information, and so I'm just not going to tell you. I'll tell you in your goodbye message. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, that's good. It's kind of like when Katura didn't tell Jake that she was voting on Caleb because she didn't want to take that risk.
Ah, screw that. Get out of my face.
Interesting. Interesting how you just agree with my point I made on our
Completely
last
different
Survivor.
scenario.
I don't think it is.
Completely different scenario.
It's risky to tell people information at certain points. Sometimes you need to blindside them. That's yeah,
She
I
coulda
agree with you.
told him.
I agree with
She
you,
coulda
Tony.
told him.
Blindsides are good
She coulda told
sometimes,
him. She could have told him.
but it's a risk, and that's what
I
Jack's
was
point was.
blindsided by your garbage, you piece of work.
All right, so the Riley situation. This is just complete internet gossip at this point, but people are really confused on if she's going to choose Matt or Jag. Because up until finale night, she was all rooting for Jag. Like, she was wearing Jag merch in her Instagram stories, being like, go Jag, I'm rooting for you. Day 2, you know, we were in alliance. Everyone's like, what happened to Matt? And then on finale night, Julie's like, hey, Riley, you and Matt. And then she's like, oh, hi, Matt, can't wait, right? But then post-finale, she's hanging out with Jag all over her Instagram again. So we'll have to keep on the watch to see who she actually chooses. A lot of people are suspecting she's kind of playing the middle until the money was shown, and now that the money's shown, she'll take Jag. So thoughts, Tony,
Jeez.
on these,
Take it easy,
this?
people. My lord. That's
Who-
incredibly aggressive.
Who do you think she's going to choose?
Listen, all right, I'm not gonna answer that question. I have been a little uncomfy about like how direct, like it feels like people are like, you have to pick, like you have to date one of them. Like she can't just be rooting for someone. She can't just be like, hey, I love you as like a friend, it has to be like, oh, they're gonna date when they leave. Like this, they're pushing this showmance on her between both of the. Yeah, it's a very weird situation, and I feel like
Well,
everything that I
you
saw.
know that the CBS producers gave her that Q-tip as well. Like, hey, you had to show this Q-tip, on the show tonight for Matt.
Q-tip.
Did you not know about his shrine that he had for her in the house, made of
Oh
Q-tips?
yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So in the
All
show,
right.
when she was talking to him, she like held up a Q-tip, and it, like again, that 100% was planted by CBS.
Oh, I missed that entirely. Her holding up a Q-tip. I must have just not been looking at the screen when she did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah, it's like a weird that no one's saying anything, but then like in the house, they were like, "Oh, Matt's got a girlfriend. Matt's got a girlfriend," and it's like I don't think anybody ever said that, and she still hasn't said that.
No, she hasn't
It's
said
weird.
that at all. So that's why again, I was confused on why they're asking her on finale
Hmm.
night. Like it's so bizarre. And I think the weird thing is like you had two actual showmances there. Like Jared and Blue,
Yeah.
again, have their own relational things that I don't understand, but like according to the show, they left on good terms and were a showmance. Corey in
Hmm.
America, a fan favorite
Hmm.
showmance. Not one
Yeah.
question about their relationship. So that
Not
was like the
discussed at
weirdest
all.
thing. Like let's talk to Riley. Remember this guy that you haven't seen in 90 days? Remember this guy that you met for a week? Yeah, where are you
Hmm.
at? Like it's
She's just
so
like, "What do you
bizarre.
mean?"
She's like, I don't know where we're at. I haven't talked to him.
Yeah. Oh, it feels weird. I don't like it. Riley, if you're listening to this, just make whatever decision you want. You don't have to date either of them.
No,
Do
I'm
your
pro,
thing,
I'm
girl.
pro Riley and Chag. I think that'd be really funny.
I
In case
wonder.
you're wondering, I'm pro Cameron and Riley. Let's bring that back.
Hey,
They
that
were
let's
real
not.
close.
I wonder. Like, I don't know much about the Sikh religion. I wonder if that would be. I don't know if you would marry or date someone that wasn't also a part of that. I don't know. I don't know.
I
I don't
I
know.
know I know nothing about it, so I will not comment on religion at this time, Tony.
It's taken a lot in me to not be like that's sick whenever I'm like talking about him being the first sick winner because it feels like that's offensive or like just taking lightly like this thing that he takes very seriously. But also it's very funny, and
It's
so
very
it's
funny.
just been this
We'll
battle in
allow
me.
it. I'll allow it.
That's sick, dude. I absolutely. If
Any?
I was in the house with him this season, he's like, oh, so he's like, yeah, I'm sick, and I was like, that's sick, bro. And then he would have hated me for the rest of the season, and I would have felt like a jerk.
That's true. He would have
Sounds
hated
like
you.
something Luke would have done, and that makes me sad. Remember Luke?
Yeah, Luke also was hitting up the Big Brother Twitter feeds this week because he
Oh, was he?
well, him and Red have been going to live together, which feels very like
Interesting.
shouldn't be doing that. Red, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah.
And Luke is now blaming. He describes the incident as an HR complaint. That's how he has been wording it. Anytime people call it, he's like, "Oh, it was an HR complaint. I got kicked off because of it." And he blames Corey because Corey was the one that ratted him to the producers. So I don't understand how people think that live feeds don't exist. Like we all saw it.
Yeah.
Maybe Corey
I
talked to
could
the producers about, but like he's literally blaming Corey and using the term HR complaint.
moron. But hey,
Yeah,
he's got to have
I
some
know.
sort of a company line, and why would he have like a "Oh, I'm gonna grow from this" line? No, it didn't happen, or it did happen, but it's fine.
Yeah, what a loser. What a loser. A lot of losers this season. Well, not more winners than losers, I'd say.
16 of them, am I right? Ew.
Oh, 16. Yeah, because it was a cast of 17. Uh, what else? I feel like without diving completely into every part of the season, which I'm gonna need some time to process this. I'm gonna need some
Mm-hmm.
time to process the game of Big Brother to see where we're at because it's bizarre. Was there anything we didn't really talk at all about the jury roundtable, which feels more and more insignificant every year to me.
I think, I genuinely think it was one of the more insight, like from this cast. I feel like we've seen there's a lot of very strong strategic minds and people who understand the game really well. Whether or not that translated to good gameplay, obviously it wasn't the best gameplay season we've ever seen. But
Hmm.
there were a lot of people who had that mind and like love this game, so they analyze it a lot. So I think in the jury roundtable, we actually did see some interesting insight and some interesting conversations about like it was pretty surface level, and it was like because they always have to play the game of showing both sides of each person,
Right.
and so to make it feel like we're not sure what's going to happen. But some of the stuff that was said, I think, was interesting.
Yeah, I think I just miss. I always remember season 18 where you had Davon and Paulie just going at it. Even in the
Mm-hmm.
jury house, like this season felt so calm. Like there was no. Everyone just liked each other, at least on the
Mm-hmm.
surface. And
Yeah,
so, and I think that's just Big Brother in general. Because honestly, like, did we get any fights this year at all on Big Brother?
not
Was
really.
No, I'm trying to think. Like, was there ever? Well, okay. Jared and Corey. That was a
And
good
then
day. That was a good
and
day
then
on
there was
Feats.
the Felicia versus Suri and Jared.
Sure, which was
Yeah.
like, yeah, the whole. So, man, maybe we needed Jared to stay. Maybe that was the issue. That's when the season went bad.
He was man, I hated watching him play, but there's a part of me that like he was very interesting to see play because he was so bad at it.
Yeah, no, you're right. And thank God Cam saved the season by targeting those people.
Thank you, Cam.
Without
If you
Cameron.
who from
I'm
this
over it.
season would you like to see play again?
That's a good question. I would like to see Corey play again. I would like to see Izzy play again.
Yep.
I do. I'm really really missed her chaotic energy. Even like Heisem, I would love to see him
Yep.
get another shot at this.
Yep.
Probably Blue. Um, she was just such a competition threat.
Stupid.
Those are probably my three. I'd say Corey, Izzy, and Heisem.
I think Riley. I would like to see Riley get a second shot because I feel like she was. I think she was decent, except for the fact that she told Heisem that he was her target. That was a tough move, but I think she was going to be like a force in the season as a whole, and going to last pretty long outside of that one conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other than that, I'd want to see Jared play again without his mom and just watch him just be a wreck. I would want to see that.
I think I'd save him for the challenge. Like, let's stick him on there and see what he does.
Oh yeah, yeah, I could see it.
I think that's the other question because that seems to be more likely at this point with the Challenge USA is that a lot of these
Hmm.
players are going to go there. And
I
so
mean,
I don't know.
Cameron, Jag are probably both going to go there.
Yeah, maybe Matt. I could see Matt making an appearance. Uh, Again, perhaps Blue being the comp threat that she is. I think I'm gonna be a Blue stan post season.
It's gross. I hate that. If you had to pick a color on this season, what would you pick?
Had to pick a color? Well, blue. What do you mean? Is that
I'd
what you're
go
looking
red.
for? He'd go
I'd go
red.
red for sure.
I red is one of the most forgettable people on this cast to me.
And he's like one of the most interesting ones when the cast was revealed. It's like, oh, dude from Hick from West Virginia. I feel like that's how I describe him as Hick offensive. I don't care.
I don't care.
Yeah,
No
I
one,
decided as I was
no one
saying
in
it.
West Virginia is gonna come get you. You'll be good. Anything else on anything finale related?
I don't think so.
I think we hit everything I wanted to say. Shocking in a lot of ways, predictable in others.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
The final HOH, the third part. Once again, it was a tie going into that last question. I do think the tiebreaker was. It wasn't like an outrageous, like it was very doable. And so Jag winning was him like thinking about it correctly and doing the math right. And that felt better to me than when some of the earlier tiebreakers where it does feel like it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna write 50,000, and it's like that's not close. Sorry.
Yeah. Bowie Jane though, man, if she was there, she would have got it right on the dot. You know it.
Mm-hmm.
That's her specialty.
It's a tough situation in those late games because it's always these questions based on things that have happened. We had multiple competitions where it's like match this competition with the universe that it came from, which nobody saw coming, which was cool. The
Yeah.
last one is going to be based on trivia about your former housemates, and like what they like something that's false about them. But everybody studies for it so much, and so like, do you make it more difficult, or do you make it different? Like, I just don't know the way to
Mm-hmm.
fix it, but I do like the idea that you need to be paying attention to what's happening every day, and that matters at the end of the game.
Yeah, it is tough because it does force this almost unfair advantage for the people that see it coming, but it does become so easy because almost every season it goes to a tiebreaker. And so I don't know how you change that because it is boring. Like I almost tune out because I'm like I don't care about this because I know it's going to a tiebreaker. Like that's literally what I said out
Mm-hmm.
loud when I was watching it, and sure enough, none of it mattered because it went to tiebreaker. So it's
And they
almost
both
like
got one wrong. Like, that's worth noting. They did both get one wrong, but it was the same one.
that is true. That is true. That's a fair point that might need to be taken into consideration. But yeah, it just feels like it's so predictable that you can't help but just be really good at it. And again, why? That's all you have to do in the house is study. So you might as
Mm-hmm.
well.
And everybody knows it. Like, I feel like everybody knows that they're studying and that what you're studying. I feel like everybody kind of is aware of it. So it doesn't feel like somebody has an unfair advantage. But if you're like just really good at studying and memorizing things, that's a little unfair, you know?
I guess. Yeah. I don't know. Weird.
Well,
All right. That's a wrap. Big Brother 25. We will, of course, probably feel differently as we move away from it. Our feelings are less attached to it. But I don't know. It's going to be a fascinating one to look back on.
mhm.
Really unlike a lot of recent seasons that we've had. That's for sure.
I'm going to put you on the spot before we go. Is that okay?
Sure. I'll
Nathan, I
make
want you
something
to
up.
rank
Perfect.
the 20s.
The
The seasons
20s.
that we've had in the 20s.
So season 20 included.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well that's obviously the best.
Yep.
No question about it. I would go with season 24 as number 2.
Okay.
I really like season 24.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna differ on that one probably. Season. What's the worst? I think season 21 is my least favorite.
Yeah.
I would put 22 slightly above that, only because I think I like the people on that one. Some of them
Mm-hmm.
I like.
That's fair.
And then I would rank season 25 above season 23. So number 3
Okay.
and season 23 at 4. Just because
Interesting.
season 23, I understand why it happened, but like once you got to the cookout, just give Xavier the win, right?
He still had to do some things to make it happen. Um, I would say 20 is obviously number one for me. I think I would go 23, 24, 21, 22. Nope, 22, 21. I think
Wait,
I'll go the
where's
same as
where's
the other.
25? Did you say 25? I didn't see
I didn't.
25.
Where is 25?
So
25
wait,
is after 23. 25. So it's 20, 23, 25, 24, 22, 21.
okay, so we just have 25 and 23 flipped. Or no, 24 and
Oh,
23 flipped and 25 in between them.
yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Okay. Interesting. We say interesting a lot. I like it. All right. Well, that's it for
We're a couple of interesting
this
fellows. What can I say?
episode. Keep listening to this podcast feed as we continue to break down Survivor every single week until that's done. I think what did we look up? We're 7 episodes in now.
Mm-hmm.
Shaping up to be a good end game for Survivor. So my prediction is that will be a better season than this season of Big Brother, and we will be much more positive on it. That is my prediction. So if you want to hear us not be miserable and complain about things we have no control over. Listen to that. And we'll probably will not be back for the reindeer games, unfortunately. But you know.
Maybe do a 1-episode review after I bully Nathan into watching the 4 episodes.
We'll see. For more episodes, visit notgameopersonal.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere listen to podcasts, really. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, at NGAPpod. That is at NGAPpod. I'm Nathan. This is Tony. And we'll see you next summer, I guess.
Remember, for the last time this year, to love one another.